This is Sarah Slyer from Anna and the Apocalypse, and you're listening to Without Your Head.
Well, we can. This is a part of the interview right now. We can keep going.
No.
When I first met him at audition, they'd auditioned practically everybody they could, and somehow anyway, we agreed that I should do the part, and then I found out that he'd spent like 10 years trying to write it and raise money for it. So I thought, well, this guy's really devoted to this. And he was a film critic at the time. I've forgotten what publications, but he was a film critic himself, and he was invested in a lot of European films. Have you seen You Better Watch Out or Christmas Evil?
Yeah, I've seen it many times. It honestly, not just because I have you here, but it is one of my favorite Christmas horror movies.
Well, so many people say that. Now, of course, let me put up right front. I know you're a horror person, right? I don't like horror movies.
Yeah. I do like movies in general. I like all movies, not just horror movies, but I do like horror movies.
Oh, well, specifically, when I was a kid, everybody liked to tell ghost stories.
Right.
You probably did too when you were a kid.
Sure.
Tell ghost stories. Oh, were scary or whatever. I wasn't a big fan of that. I didn't get a kick out of being scared for no reason. It's like people need an adrenaline shot. I don't know, but anyway. So my interest in this film was his interest in it, and then I hadn't read the whole script in, and then they gave me the script, and I said, well, I don't know about this, and I knew at the time that the budget was low. So, and I knew that he'd spent most of his money on that cinematographer, Aronovich, or whatever his name was, a European guy, because he was so enamored with his films. And if you'll notice in the thing, like he references several of those things, like the footsteps running across the sidewalk and a lot of things, and the music, bum, 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 bum. And his whole thing of, he'll tell you. And then I found out from him that he was so invested in this that he'd researched all of the myths and the stories about Saint Nick and Santa Claus and the whole thing of good versus evil and all the thing about, I don't know how much you know about it, but about Dirty Pete or whatever his name is. They give kids in Europe, they give them a bucket of coal and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so I said, well, this guy's really interested, and so I went into it, full steam ahead, and it was a wonderful, rewarding experience, and frustrating in a thousand different ways. And I don't think he really got the film he set out to be, but fortunately, it's still alive and it's been around for 30 years, and as he said, it's a film that will never die. And I've been so surprised. You probably know, because it wasn't a financial success because they didn't know how to market it. It wasn't a horror film.
Yeah. And
horror films are much easier to market. It was a psychological film about this impressionable little kid who'd hit that first big stomach block that we all have about, hey, there ain't no Santa Claus. What do you mean there ain't no Santa Claus? And hey, your mother doesn't get fucked by a Santa, all that stuff. What do you mean? I'll kill you, and I'll cut my hand and the red blood's running down. That's going to set the whole theme. So Louis Jackson did amazing thought about everything. As a matter of fact, I said, well, how am I supposed to feel about this guy that kills people? And he said, okay. So he set up a screening for me. Do you know the film M that Peter Lorre did? Okay. He set up a screening for me, a private screening with the money people and himself. And so I got to watch that. I said, well, why am I watching it? He said, well, to see how you can have some sort of empathy somewhere or another from somebody who can do horrible things, but there's some part of them that you might empathize with, because I don't know if you remember this back in the cave dungeon when they chase him back in there, and they're going to kill him, and he said, look, you have a choice. He said, you have a choice. You can make your decision whether to kill me or not. He said, when I decide to kill, I don't have a choice. I have to. So So it gave me some food for thought there. But I don't think the what's his name, Harry, had anything. He was just a reaction. He saw bad, and he did this, and he was a few decks short in his card short in his deck anyway. And
like you said, that's what makes him a sympathetic villain, which to me is always the most interesting villains.
Well, that's good. That's the idea. Yeah.
And like you said, it isn't like a traditional like slasher movie at all. And I think it is marketed that way, like even the name and the imagery on the poster and stuff. So it's a different kind of.
What else you going to say? The poor boy told I wasn't any Santa Claus. Come buy a ticket to see this. Right. I don't know. That's not. I have no idea. Yeah. Except I do know that it is a different movie, and it has found an audience of. Like yourself and so many other people say that it is their favorite Christmas movie. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah. When did you realize it found that audience? When did you realize like there is a following for Christmas Evil?
Well, I don't know. There was slowly dribbled in about conventions and. Somebody wanted me to come to sign thing, and I couldn't. I'll be 86 in a couple of weeks, so I've been kind of, and I was an actor for many years, and I had to stop because I had a spinal problem, and I was a total drunk. Matter of fact, I was still drinking during the time of shooting the Christmas Evil. Matter of fact, while I was doing Christmas Evil. I worked every day, I think, 6 days a week, except for a couple of days, and that's when they shot some of the police thing in the that thing of the Santa Claus says you can arrest anybody who looks anything like Santa Claus, which is stupid. But then I did. What did I do? The Michael Caine film, Dressed to Kill.
Oh, yeah.
I did Dressed to Kill on those 2 days off. So I was
really?
Yeah. And then right after that, I did The World According to Garp. And right in between, while I was doing, this all happened in a short period of time. I did the first part of it. We shot the first part of The World According to Garp out on a place called Fisher's Island. It's out in the Long Island Sound. I'd never heard of it. But it's a private enclave for rich people, and they have their own airfield there. And so I was flying out land and it's one of those things where it's a small island, very small. And as a central thing, the road goes around in the center, and off the side, you don't see the houses. They're off the side. They're down their driveways. So you see mailboxes, and very wealthy people. And there's a bar, and I think a post office and a gas station. I don't know whether for the gas station is a part of the post office. I don't know, but in other words, and a ferry. You could go by you had to say by airplane from anywhere with a small landing field, or there's a ferry went right over to. You're in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, I'm on Cape Cod. So.
Yeah, well, the ferry
yeah, we have ferries right here to the islands. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how they get you. Well, then you know Fisher's Island, right?
I've heard of it, but I've never been there.
Well, it's not they don't really promote it.
Right.
For
they won't let me.
For obvious reasons, a little privacy there. So that was a revelation to me there. So anyway, we did part of the shoot there, and then there was a 6-week break when I was. From that until we picked up again in the studios in Long Island City, the name of the studios there, and in Long Island City there. I can't remember the name of the studios. That's famous. But anyway, we picked up and did some of the scenes there. But during that 6 weeks off, I got sober.
Was there
mainly because. I had a large family, a bunch of kids and ex-wives and all that stuff, and I had my 2 youngest daughters with me. I wasn't drunk; I was hungover, and I'm walking them from a play date. They were like 5 and 4, 6 and 5, I forget. and walking along, one in each hand, walked along 111th Street and Broadway, and going across the street, a taxi came around the corner really fast, driving like crazy and screeching around, and people started screaming, yelling, jumping. I grabbed it. I already had the two girls, one in each hand, and I picked them up in the air and set them on the sidewalk. And he went on around, and I yelled, "You son of a bitch!" I thought that's what I said. But later on, my daughter Maud Amber said, "No, Dad, you said Jack something." So apparently it called him a jackass. I don't know if I ever called anybody a jackass, but I assume that's what I must have said. Well, for a cab that's going that fast, he's either trying to get away from something or get to something. And for somebody to call him jackass, for him to screech to a halt, that questions about what the fuck is going on here, you know. Yeah. But anyway, he stepped out of the cab, and he was you remember Franco Harris, the fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah.
I don't know if he had a brother or not, but if he had a brother, he would have been Franco Harris's big brother. And with a big afro, he jumped out and started walking towards me. And I thought, oh my God, all I could see, I had some big rings on his hand, it flashed. I don't know why I recognized that. So I had ensconced my two daughters and some bystanders there. I said, "You got here?" I said, some young boy, and he said he couldn't do it. He couldn't do that kind of thing. And a couple of the older women held the girls, and I said, "I have to take care of this." And there was no question about it. He was coming after me, so I went after him, and we got in a fist fight. We didn't have much of a fist fight. He hit me, and I went to the floor. I swung with everything I had, and he did too, and I ended up on the pavement there, and he jumped back in his cab and sped off. So I was on my back. I looked up, and it was like a surreal kind of thing where people gathered all around me. And as I said, I wasn't drunk, but I was hungover. I wasn't at my fighting best. I used to be a boxer, but I looked up, and it was just faces looking down at me. And there was one face looking down. It was an elderly Negro gentleman. He looked like Uncle Remus. He had that white silver hair and soft-spoken. And he looked down at me and said, "You shouldn't do that in front of the children." It was like an echo. It was like, holy shit. And everybody disappeared. And that guy, too. I don't know. And anyway, I ended up in the hospital with stitches and my little girls. But I never had another drink after that.
Was it hard to, I mean, you have an experience there to want you to stop drinking, but was it hard to stop? Did you go to meetings?
Well, I'd stopped several times. I went to AA, but I'd stopped a couple of times. I stopped once on my own for a year, and then we knew I had a drinking problem because of, you're an actor too, right? we get depressed sometimes, like looking for a job and got to run responsibilities, and the easiest thing is to have a drink. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you do or not, or did. The whole thing is, if you had when you first have a drink when you're a kid, or you first have a kiss, your first love, or there's a certain high you get, and you chase that fucking high the rest of your life. And there's a high you get by being on stage, and you come out there and the crowds are going crazy. You get off and it's really quiet. You either go home and quietly, or you go to a bar. And if you're on a road, if you're on a national tour or something, you go to a bar where all the other people there, especially the chorus girls who are very nice, and you end up getting in trouble that way. But and then I ran into an actress named Tamara Long, and she was like a psychic kind of person, and she got started on the right road, and that was right before I had that fist fight with one of my little girls. And it was either that or die. There was I didn't have a choice. And that's like I say, I cut myself off. That 1 year that I stopped, then I went with my lady at the time. I went to a birthday party. And so everybody's sitting around having the margaritas. And I'm sitting there, everybody's having a good time, and I loved margaritas. And so I reached over and I took a sip of my lady's margarita. I said, damn, that was good. And then I had another sip. And within 6 weeks, I was in worse condition than I was before when I'd stopped the year earlier.
Yeah.
So there was I really didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It was this or die. And so thank God I did, because I've had a wonderful life after that. My life after that's been really, I don't know how I got so lucky.
I actually
anyway.
quit drinking. Yeah, I quit drinking last November, so a little over a year ago.
Yeah, was that tough for you?
It wasn't really tough, honestly. Which, I mean, that might sound bad, but I was very unhealthy in lots of ways, and so I quit drinking and I changed my diet. I've lost 140 pounds since last November. But yeah, I feel much better. And the one thing though, the one thing that I was worried about was I didn't think I would be as funny like on the shows, because some people would think I'd be funny when I was, at least in my mind, I thought people thought I was funny when I was drunk or whatever. But so that was that, and at events like at festivals or conventions, in social gatherings, it was hard the first few of those to be around a lot of people.
You do have to readjust, but you probably have noticed. Drunk guys are funnier to themselves.
Right.
The only person I ever saw that was funnier drunk than sober was my partner on Sesame Street, Jimmy Cattucci. I don't know if you ever knew Jimmy. And he did a lot. He was on the David Frost show and True Lily Tomlin. We worked together at the upstairs and the downstairs, and then we did the first year of Sesame Street. His buddy and Jim. You can look them up on YouTube now. They're quite popular. But he was the funniest guy you ever saw drunk, and he was like a stream of consciousness drunk.
Yeah. How did
Excuse me?
How did that come about? The first season of Sesame Street, because it's the first season, so you don't know it's going to become this iconic show.
Well, Jimmy and I were doing these sketches. There's a place called the Upstairs, the Downstairs, and I started out there covering. Julie Smock, the impresario, saw me and Dan Yankees and Summer Stock and asked me to come in, and they opened this new club there called the Upstairs, the Downstairs, and they had 6 people, 3 guys and 3 girls, and he said it was already cast, but he wanted me to cover the 3 guys, but I could be a waiter. It turns out I made more money waiting tables than the actors made in the show, and it turned out Then I stopped doing that and just got involved with the place itself, and I ended up writing and performing there myself later on. But in the beginning, I just used it as I'd go in and do a film or a movie and come back and always have my job as a waiter there. So that was a crutch that saved my life. Of course, I had always started out with a few kids and kept picking up more kids. So I had a big nut to crack every month. But listen, stick with it, because people say your life will change, and it will. And you say you have a weight problem or that. You have a lot of problems that I don't think I ever had really a big weight problem, but they're problems, whatever they are. And so if you stick with them and not give in to get to that high of getting really, eating 4 cakes at once, you get that sugar high, and you can never get it again. You can never get that first high. You just keep chasing it. And then the people who do drugs, they think, oh, that's a drug. And then they chase, they got to have more drugs to get that. Then they got to have more drugs to get that. And you can't get it again. So logically, you have to stop. And it's a lot of people don't do it. Believe me. Although thank goodness, a lot of a few of my children are clean and sober, and they've stuck with it for years. But so many of the people you go to, they're there and then they're gone. My oldest daughter works in a home for a residency for drug addicts and for women and drug addicts and alcoholics, and they're just repeat people. they come in, they detox, they get back out on the street again, and they shoot up again, and they're back in there. So rarely ever. She comes to him and tells me horror stories every night about somebody committed suicide. Somebody got mugged, somebody this, and she's back there again. Somebody with a knife did this, and there was a really smart people. One of my granddaughter's boyfriend overdosed, and he was a brilliant young man, and he was he just all of a sudden and he's gone. And it just about wrecked her life, seeing him do that. So God bless you if you can stay away from drinking, and of course you got your food problem too. But
well, like I said, I was almost 340 last November, and I'm just about 200 now. So it's 140 pounds I've lost. So I'm very happy with that.
Well, I weigh more than you do now. I weigh like 220 now myself.
Yeah. About the high, the high you said, I walk every day, at least 6 miles, and that does give me a different high. It's like I do that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find if I walk outside.
Still get your food high? Do you still get your food high as well? Well, I like to eat, and I like to cook too, but I make better food, so I eat a lot of seafood and chicken and a lot of vegetables. It's almost sinful if you really like to cook, and you're really good at it, that you have to just pass it off to somebody else. It's hard to take just 1 or 2 servings. You got a fight on your hands, that's for sure.
Yeah. I just find I research my own things, and I make my own food, and I just make better stuff. But I still eat well.
I do too. Thank God, it's my oldest daughter. Takes care of me a little bit here, but of course I grew up in the South eating fried food. But
right. I was big about that.
But in California, I ate a lot of avocados and tomatoes and all sorts of vegetables and lettuce and so forth. And
it is a little easier to eat well in cities. It's easier to find a healthy food, I find.
Oh yeah, I go back and visit. I swear to God, I don't even visit there. I'm from small town in Tennessee, and it's nothing. You don't recognize it now, and it was like really the old time, wonderful small town. Well, it was probably I'd make it sound better than it was, but they had one little paper there, the Carthage Courier, and there was not much news in it, except somebody went to a church meeting or somebody got a new car, shit like that, and of course they covered the football games and stuff like that. But there was never any violence. Now, I've subscribed to that paper all these years, and I keep getting it, and I've been in touch with them because I've been writing some articles for it along the way. And of course, I don't. That whole part of the South is not. It's still Trump country, and anyway, I said to the editor, I said, I've seen your paper, every week there's 3 drug busts, 9 car crashes, and fires and murders. And I said, what happened? That's not, the town's not much bigger than it was before. He said, well, that's because of the interstate highway connection more to Nashville. And of course, it's almost now, although it's 50 miles away, it's almost like a suburb, and it's spilled over. So the drug people, companies come in and are crowded around this little town, and just awful. Yeah. Anyway, I rattle on.
Yeah, well, on that sort of subject there, you mentioned you're going to be 86 soon. Through those 86 years, have you ever seen the country so divided, politically?
God, no. I've been writing about it too. It's like well, in Tennessee, we're in the area there where my family grew up. There were no plantations. Maybe a few around somewhere, but nobody in my family had slaves or anything. And so even during all that time, families were divided. brothers against brothers and cousins and so forth would go to the north fight for the Yankees and some of the south to fight, and some of them would just didn't fight at all. They hid out in caves and shit, like that. So what'd you ask me? I got lost there being maybe
about just the country being so divided.
Oh yeah, it's just even everybody will tell you that families, fathers and daughters and sons and mothers and everybody and people I knew that I had no idea that they were so conservative and so greedy and I don't know. And the hypocrisy of Trump said has taken over the evangelist, but he didn't agree with him. He's just picking up that vote,
Right.
And so
you go back and
they will back him, and they don't see that he's he's running a Ponzi scheme on the whole country. Well, I don't know if you're watching today. I got up early and been watching it all the time. I think we're going to get him. I keep saying that all along, and then the next time they say, "Oh no, he's okay." So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So anyway, didn't think you want to ask me?
Yeah. So a couple things about Christmas Evil. Now, in 1984, when the Silent Night, Deadly Night comes out, like Siskel and Ebert are really against it in the media and stuff. But was there any of that backlash in 1980 when Christmas Evil came out?
I don't remember, really. I don't remember about backlash. It almost went unnoticed. It was like, because I'm not even sure it opened theatrically, and I know it got some reviews in small places. I don't know. So it wasn't really exposed. It's kind of like been hidden away, and it got eked out and pirated and all that kind of stuff. And then Trauma. Yeah,
Trauma.
Yeah. Trauma, yeah. Excuse me. They picked up on it, and they had to. But now it's on Showtime Beyond, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I think it's even on Shudder. Yeah, I think it's on Shudder. There's so many streaming sites now. Platforms where people can watch things, online. I think it's on Shudder. It might be on a few different ones.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I'm supposed to have a piece of that movie, but I've never seen a penny. But I know that he's never made any money, so I don't say anything now unless sometime after I die, my grandkid might want $1.25. I don't know, but it just went by unnoticed, except for the people who picked up on it. It's like out here, I haven't been lately. They have a Christmas screening out here in one of the local theaters over in Boys Town there, and they go over and meet, and they have a big showing there and a festive thing, and all over the country they have them. But it's
since you weren't a horror movie guy, and since you didn't make money on the movie. What are your thoughts on the movie? Like, was there ever a time like you didn't like to?
Yeah, talk about I never. When I was doing it and I read it and I was my integrity of doing the character and everything, I was really happy about it. But then when I saw it, I said, "Oh shit, it's like a flimsy kind of thing," and I hated some of the cutting. It was too long, and a lot of things was too slow and go in sections and so forth. So it could still use some editing. But the copy that's out now, I took it off Showtime here. It's a really good copy of it, and it's all right. And I like it better now than when I first saw it, because I had such high expectations when I first saw it. I thought, oh man. Especially when the thing with some of the scenes with the Santa Claus people lined up, but see, let me interject here. I didn't realize that there's some of the things like trying to get down the chimney and he's beating on things, get down, and of course they chase him with torches. The people didn't have torches then, you know. And of course, and what my favorite part of the movie at the end when he goes off and crashes through the gate and goes through the air, his van that he's dolled up to look like Santa's sleigh, goes across the moon and said, "Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night." After going through all he'd gone through, he lived in his head. And all this stuff, and like when it comes out in the beginning, he opened up and they had me dance around the room like that. And I thought, well, this he's not normal, and he would do something like that. Then there's the thing about, I don't know how familiar you are, he gets so frustrated once he comes home, he's frustrated, and he grabs a toy soldier there. And it wasn't even in the script, but I started humming the thing and humming and humming. And getting so mad and crazy, I break it, and all of a sudden, then he cuts to the little kid and the blood running down his hand.
Yeah.
So it's just, I justified it all. He couldn't get down the chimney because he's frustrated. Not necessarily that he couldn't get down an actual chimney, but that he couldn't do what he's supposed to do. There's always somebody throwing something in his way to stop him from doing what he thought he was supposed to do. And he's out on we taught the little kids and out in the, I don't remember that scene when they're out in this, it was like below zero. God, I remember that. Out in the alley there, and the little kids come up and take Santa's part, and then I don't know if you remember that, but they come and take Santa's part, and the parents want to stop, and one little girl picks up the knife and hands it back to Santa, because the kids love Santa Claus, and he can understand why the grown-ups don't see what he's doing, and then he takes off. That's when the whole chase starts, and down the hill and into the truck, and people chasing him like they did back during those days in the European films when chasing.
Yeah, like that's what I like about that. Even though, like you said, it's not really something that would happen in this time period, but I like it because it does remind me of like an old Frankenstein movie or Universal monster movie where they're running the monster.
And all that stuff will really justify it. That doesn't really happen. The people who are chasing him might not have had torches, but he saw them as having torches.
Yeah.
He felt they were chasing him with torches. Maybe he'd watched horror movies. Who knows? But
which also the Universal monster movies are always sympathetic too. Like Frankenstein he's a monster because he can't really help himself. It's not really that he's a monster. So it really plays along with the idea of the movie.
Especially Mel Brooks.
Right. Yes. Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, Ronnie Graham was my best friend. He worked on Mel Brooks a lot.
Oh, really?
And he had those things, several of his movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Frankenstein.
And when you talk to fans of the movie, like later on, how do they interpret the ending? Do all of them kind of get the idea that it is in his head, or does some people think it's literal?
I don't talk to him. Not that many people that I know are really interested in the movie. But when I read online, people, I have a fan base, and they have all this. If you can go and see my Facebook page, I don't know if you've ever gone there. I have a Facebook page. Now, I've written a lot.
You have like a regular.
Facebook page, and it has some fan base, and just look up Brandon Maggart on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then I have a thing about my books that I write. Matter of fact, right now I'm working on an audio version and a print version of my fifth or sixth book that I've just finished recording, and so it should be out in January, February at the latest, and it's called Where Possums Dance and the Willow Sings, and it's a kind of it's so hard to describe, but it covers 4 million years.
All right.
Mostly 200 years, and mostly the last 86 years. but it covers all of life and death and God and anything in math and like Fibonacci numbers. What is perfection? Is there perfection? Is there when you fall in love the first time, you promise you're going to love each other throughout eternity? What does that mean, throughout eternity? Is there an eternity? Now, I'm trying to give it a short shrift here, but I've investigated about the last 10 years in those thoughts, and so it should be out pretty soon, and hopefully in February. And of course, people have been other books. I haven't done audio version. Are you into audio books?
I am, because I like to listen to them when I'm walking.
Well,
I just listened to. I heard You Paint Houses before I watched The Irishman.
Well, audio books I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You have the book, and then you hear it.
Yeah, I listen to them while I'm walking because I can put them on my phone and listen to them in
right.
My
so I've been advised. People said because apparently people like to hear my voice, and this I've recorded this book, and so I'm not even sure I want it to be a success because it's so private, but I do want it to be available to people who are in the arts, who throw themselves out into this world of living outside the normal things of having freedom of thought and mobility and being on stage or writing songs or poetry or being in a dark room working at a math problem or something, trying to relate it all to life. So hopefully it comes across in my book. So some of it.
I saw a little video on your website where you're talking about your movie Whiskey, Women, and Banana Peels, which is an excellent title and definitely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to check that out. Where can people get your books?
Amazon. But the first book I wrote was called Papa's Footprint, and everything in that. Then I wrote a trilogy from Papa's Footprint, but that's one of those of that trilogy. Then I wrote another novel called My Father's Mistress, and then I wrote. I'm working on this one now, which I take from all the other books, what I've learned and some of the stories. I'm a storyteller, so I tell a lot of stories in it. The title of it is, of course, Where Possums Dance and the Willow Sings. You can relate to that. We can look and see. I don't know if you've seen that picture of it. I have a picture of my cover out there. You can look at it and see, kind of get the gist of what the book is kind of like. A lot of old guy telling stories.
Well, I like it. I'm into it. What like made you want to pursue acting? When were you interested in it? And
just right away in high school. I didn't. I was only interested in football and girls, and my math teacher wanted me to be in a play. And I said, I don't want to be in a play. She gave me a play called The Valiant. It's a one-act play. I don't know if you know the play. It's a one-act play, and we did it, and somebody from Hollywood came in and saw me just do a run-through, and said, went crazy about how talented I was, and I should go to New York, but I didn't. So I did a lot of plays and sang, and then went to university. I sang operas. I did operas and plays, and I won a scholarship to go and study in New York, and then I got on the stage, started out singing at Radio City Music Hall and Glee Club there, and then I went into musical comedies, and then I got on Broadway and did a lot of Broadway, mostly flops. My only big hit was Applause, and I got a Tony nomination for that, for playing the playwright in there. But I did with Carol Channing. I played with her, and toured with Howard Keel and Jane Powell, and I played Luther Billis and Jane in South Pacific. I've done a skillion TV series that flopped, Broadway shows that flopped, closed out of town, and I'm still here, as they say.
Yeah.
Because you probably know that you're in the union, right?
No, I'm not.
In the actors union, even if you're in it, it takes something to get in there. And if you're in the union, usually about less than 5% of the actors work. Everybody else got to have another job, right? And some of the rest of it's like our economy. The top 1% make 90% of the whole thing, and the rest of us, they used to call us fungibles out here. It was like there was a stratum of really good actors that nobody would buy a ticket for, but they're really good, and so they had if they want to cast something, they'd pay all the money to the big star, and if they'd have minor roles, and they'd say, well, they can pick really good people unless the star wanted to pick out their own, which I've been picked out a couple of times. But then they said, well, they cast you, and they said, I'm not going to do it for that money. And they said, okay, we'll take the next guy. And we were fungibles. In other words, they didn't give a shit. They had so many good ones, and it could fit that role, and everybody's going to be happy with it. But if you'd work for the money they offered, so they called us the fungibles.
Yeah. So you mentioned about quitting drinking stuff. Was it hard to step away from acting?
Well, it was really hard because I had to stop because I started losing I was always called a quick study. I could look at a page and pretty much get it. But then as I got really up in 60 or something like that, I noticed it was getting more difficult to memorize. And then it got to get worse, and then of course then I had the back problem. I could barely walk, and I had surgery finally when I was 80. So I was in terrible pain up until then. Now I'm not in pain, but I'm old. But anyway, I got so that I was afraid to show up because I did a lot of shows, and I could see old people show up, and they would be right in the crux of doing something, they'd forget their line. Because they have to go back and reset the cameras and do it all over again. So I said, dude, how can they? And all of a sudden I was kind of like in that. So I said, no, this is no good. So by that time I've never been a big spender. I'd saved enough money to buy groceries and help my kids along and have a house. And so I painted for 10 years. I painted for 10 years. My house is covered with paintings of mine, and mostly paintings of old jokes. When my daughter Justine was killed many years ago, and I was destroyed, and I was doing a series, and they had to write me out almost. I couldn't stop crying, but then also one day I remembered, out of the blue, I remembered a story that I remembered hearing when I was a kid. A couple of them. One was about 4 guys shot down, and it wasn't a dirty. There's some blood of them were dirty, but this was 4 guys that shot down in the South Pacific, and they had to eat all their food except the one last piece of cheese, and it's not enough to have a part of a bite each. That they got to decide some way to give the last piece of cheese to one guy. So the story was about that, and I thought, well, how would I was sketching things. How would I put that? If you didn't know the story, how would I sketch it, and put it on there and paint the sketch and do it on a photograph, like one cell thing that would tell the whole story, or would indicate a narrative. In other words, if you knew the story beforehand and you saw that one picture, would it evoke a memory of a story that you'd heard before? So that's why I did that for 10 years.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures on your website.
Yeah, you saw some of those.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So would you say that the painting and writing and doing the audiobooks, that's a similar creative outlet for you since you know?
Well, that's the whole deal. Is to be interested in something. Now you have this podcast or whatever you're doing. It's something for you to do. If you didn't have something to do, you'd go bat crazy and drunk and weigh 900 pounds in a week. You know. Right. So that's the key, to keep keep an interest. So my mind, I always had an inquisitive mind as a kid, and it's been with me the whole life, which has saved me. I wake up every day thinking of something interesting I'd thought that I should add to an earlier thought I'd had, or I've been blessed with that. Of always thinking about the next thing to write about and how that ties to this thing to write about, and how the seed from the first one led to the three, and then led to another, then led to this one, which confines down to try to cut down all those pages down to enough page, and then to add to other, what I've concluded after doing all that, and to concisely put into a book and then record it, has been very fulfilling. And so otherwise, even though I have a lot of kids and family that keep me busy thinking about and concerned about, but you're alone. You wake up in the morning, you're alone. You go to sleep and you're alone. Well, I used to go to sleep with a lot of women, but I got too old for that. and so I go to sleep with my thoughts and my writing and so forth, and wake up the same way. Anyway, so stick with your podcast, or what? Right? Do you writing on your own too?
Well, next week I'm flying out to LA to work on my first feature film, so that's a very exciting week from today.
To your a screenplay, or what does that mean?
Well, we already have the script, and so we're gonna film it next week. We'll start it next week. I'll be out there for a couple weeks.
What do you mean? You're producing it in it? Or
yeah, producing, and I'm also going to be in it.
Yeah,
I made a short. I don't know the exact location. It's actually in the mountain. We rented a small cabin in the mountains, and we're going to film it. And I had made a small short film with the same people. That's in the festivals right now. It's been doing well and won some awards and stuff. So it's exciting to work with them again for a feature film.
All right, keep with that.
Mm-hmm.
Stick with that, and don't drink, and enjoy your meals, but not too much. All right.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, and I'll give you your number to Louis Jackson. All right, and good luck to you, pal. Good luck.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you.
All right, same here. Bye.
Yep. Have a good day. Bye.
Hi, this is Bill Whedon from Trauma, Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD, Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger Part 3, and Ungovernable Films, The Ungovernable Force, plus many other films. And you are listening to Without Your Head.